I haven't soldered in a long time. My work isn't the greatest. I actually accidentally, when I was opening up my Tatrix, I was using a knife because I don't have many tools with me here in my place in Colombia. I actually broke off one of the resistors and I had to put some solder back on that one. So this is how they look when they're clean. This is how it looks when you get amateur work. And pretty much I had to reattach this because I have a lot of customers and they jam the port pretty hard. So I ended up having to, on the four corners, had to re-tack those down. And then back here, I don't know, it's hard to see, but back here is super, super tiny. But I had to do those little 5 pin outs and those 4 spots, and then this one that I messed up. So I had to do 10 little repair locations. It's all done now. So what I need to do is connect this to my computer, the cable's here, and I'm gonna check to see if it's working, because when it was broke, when I would open up the help menu, I gotta get it. I'm working on a turbo diesel right now, my first one. So you go to the help, go to device link. So if the device link is broke, or if the device is broke, it will just say no device supported. If I refresh, no device supported. Now, since I repaired it, when I refresh that, there should be a number. So let's go ahead and connect this. A good sign that I'm getting power is that you'll see that light when you connect it to your USB port. So that is on, I'm getting power. So all I need to do is hit the refresh button. If it pops up with a device info number, it's fixed. Bam. And then you would apply if you had keys. So this is now fixed. I'll try not to break it again. It's gonna be hard, and I think that's why they're coming out with a Texas 3.0, a way to keep you from breaking it. So what I'm going to do from now on, when I'm with customers, I'm gonna use an extension so they don't, if they have a manual car, they're not putting in the clutch and hitting my Tatrix and breaking it. So get you an extension. I know this is a double extension. I don't have a single right now, but get you an extension that can plug into your Tatrix device, and then you just plug this top in into the car. That way, if you have a clutch, when you pull back and go back into the clutch, you're not hitting the actual Tatrix and risking breaking this off. And so this will now sit on the floor or something out of the way so that they don't break it. So yeah, just a little repair. And now we're gonna go over what I want to go over today. What is going on, guys? It's Justin with another Mazda Monday. I know I didn't do one in a couple weeks. I'm in Colombia. I had one planned last week, but I wanted to get you guys more information on the video because I constantly have customers giving me feedback. So, as you guys know, I've been looking for all the upgrades for every Skyactiv motor that we have, right? The 3.3 liter, the 2.0, the 2.5, 2.5 turbo. I've been looking for all the major upgrades that I can find for the future. So if you guys want big power, we have it. All right. So today, I got an update for you guys as far as fueling goes. All right. I don't have the video. I'll show it to you another time because the guy I'm working with was supposed to send me the video of the testing so you guys can see it. But I am going to give you the general overview of our fuel system. All right. So as you guys know, I have a 4th gen. And I've tested the low pressure fuel pump, high pressure fuel pump, injectors, the fuel pressure regulator, and the fuel pump control module. So there's 5 different components in our fueling system that I've tried to find upgrades for. All right. Now, most of the upgrades I tried, they didn't work. All right. Pretty much all the high pressure fuel pumps are giving out the same kind of pressure or the same amount of flow, because the difference in the flow rates isn't from the fuel pump. It's from the cam lobe on the exhaust cam. So that's what changes the pressure from one vehicle to the next vehicle is the cam lobe on the exhaust cam that drives the fuel pump. Now, the 2.0 in the Miata has a different fuel lobe on the exhaust cam than on the Mazda 3. And that allows the NDs to get more fuel at higher RPM because it has a different, more aggressive fuel load. Now, it's not a big deal unless you guys are trying to run boost in E85, which some of you guys are. But let's take it back, all right? Going back to the 4th gen, the 5 components. All right, I found out that the high pressure fuel pump is pretty much done. We tried the 2.5 T pump and the 3.3 out of the CX-70 and 690. They're the same. You don't get more pressure from it, no more fuel. All right. Then there's also the fuel pump control module, right? The fuel pump control module doesn't add power, but it adds reliability. And you can get that from the CX-70 or the CX-90. It's just a newer version of the one that's in the 2.5 turbo. And the reason why I know it increases reliability, because if you look at the older 3rd gens, their fuel pressure control module was an older number, and it started with a PE, but the turbo models had a PY part number. And then once you get past 2018, all the 2.5 naturally aspirated had the PY part number, which was the same as the turbo. So they upgraded the module from in the NAs to the higher version that was in the turbo models. And the reason why they had to do that was because the 2018 plus Mazda 6 and CX-5, and then Mazda 6 and CX-5, they have a higher fuel pressure because they run small injectors. So they gave them the better fuel pressure control module to run the smaller injectors and force more pressure. All right. So there's an upgrade for those older 3rd gens to just get the turbo model fuel pressure control module. Okay. Now that one doesn't do too much. The one that does the most out of the fueling mods for most of the cars is going to be the low pressure fuel pump. All right. So in the older 3rd gens, the low pressure fuel pump upgrade would be the CX-90 or CX-9 low pressure fuel pump, which is also the Fab 9 ND2 MCAL fuel pump. They have the same part numbers, so they're the same thing to me. But you're not going to find those fuel pumps cheaper anywhere other than Fab 9 unless you are a dealer and you can get wholesale prices. So the Fab 9 ND2 pump is the best pump you can put into your 2012 to 2018 Mazda 3, pretty much the 3rd gen Mazdas, Skyactivs. Those are the ones that you want to put that CX-9 / Fab 9 MCAL fuel pump in. Now we did try to do the DW300C. That was a complete fail, guys. The DW300C it's been working in a few cars, but ever since I started, cranking up the tuning, putting more fuel pressure, it creates too much of a demand on the electronics. So the fuel pressure control module started failing in some of these cars because they were overheating. The modules were overheating from trying to supply the power to the low pressure fuel pump, which was the DW300C. So I had about half and half. Like I had 5 customers have the issues with the pump, and I had like 5 customers that didn't have any issues. But now that the tuning is so far advanced, the most consistent And best thing to do is stick to the CX-9/Fab9 pump because it's Denso brand. And all the components in your car for your fuel system are Denso, and it was meant to run Denso voltage and amperage and not some aftermarket fuel pump. So the best thing to do is to keep everything OEM plus. So everything I try to do in these cars, I prefer OEM because I know there's a lot of research behind it, and the ECU will function the best with it because it's just meant for the car. So with the fuel components, keep it Denso. If you can't find a Denso replacement, just don't waste your time with it. So pretty much every fueling upgrade that I'm telling you guys is going to be a Denso replacement for the Mazda Skyactiv motor. So now that you guys know, don't mess with the DW300C, stick to the Fab9 pump. You guys can also upgrade the module to help out with the increased demand of fuel pressure. So now if you have the Fab9 ND2 MCAL pump, the CX9 pump, you can do the CX9 module. Now, if your car is 2018, a Mazda 6 or CX-5, you don't need to upgrade the module because you already have it. If you're 2012, 2017 CX-5 and Mazda 6, you have the older module and you can upgrade to the CX-9 module. And the same thing goes from the 2012 to 2018 Mazda 3, you can upgrade that. Now the 2019 Mazda 3 and CX-30, those BP models, they don't use the same fuel pump. They use a different one. And as you guys all know, the upgrade for that is the LC500 pump. And that is our only upgrade that I found. And it's a Denso pump, just like the stock pump. It's bigger. This is also the same pump that's in a GR Corolla. Now, if our pump that we had in our car was sufficient for the amount of power, why doesn't the GR Corolla use that small pump? No, GR Corolla uses the bigger pump, the LC500. So that's probably what we need to be using, especially now with the Pure 500. We can get 350 wheel horsepower out of that thing. So that being said, we have the LC500 for the turbo and the NA models of the Mazda 3 and CX-30 2019 plus. All right, and you can upgrade to the CX-90, CX-70 control module, but you don't really need it. But maybe if you do the Pure 500, you'll notice it once you're running out of fuel right at the end. I don't know. All the customers that tried it, they put the module in and they say they don't notice much, but it also just gives you that peace of mind that you have a module that's more reliable and won't leave you stranded like some of these guys did when they did the DW300C and had that stock older module. All right. So the fuel pressure regulator, tried all of those. I'll show you a picture here, what they look like. Tried the turbo, tried the NA version. Didn't do anything jack crap for increasing our fuel pressure. We even tried crushing them down, didn't do anything. And the last component that we got tested that I was focused so much on was finding a fuel injector replacement. Now, there are a lot more injectors than you think for the Skyactiv motor. All right, when they first did it, there was 3 injectors. There was the ones that were in the 1.3 liter Skyactiv that we have. A lot of people don't even know we have that because in the first year of Skyactiv was technically in 2011 in a small, I believe a 1.3 motor, and it had a CVT. A lot of people don't know about that vehicle. And then so like after that one, we got the 2012 Mazda 3 Skyactiv, and you know, then we come 2013, still got the, you know, the 2.0, and then 2014, we coming into the 2.5. So the 2.0 and the 2.5 have different injectors. All right, so those are the two we had in 2014, and obviously we had that smaller one for the that 1.3, and then, you know, we got the 1.5. But anyways, we come out with the CX-9 in 2016, and it's a 2.5 turbo. Now, you would think because it's a turbo model, it's going to have bigger injectors. No. all the 2.5 turbos use the same injectors that are in a 2.5 third gen NA, not the fourth gen NA. So your 2014 through your 2017 NAs and the 2018 Mazda 3, because it's still a third gen. So your third gen 2.5 liters have the same injectors that are in all the 2.5 turbos, right? So the power they can make, we can make. Now, the 2019 plus NAs have smaller injectors. Meanwhile, the turbo models still have the bigger, older injectors that are also in the third gen NA. All right. So what does that mean for us? That means us fourth gen guys that are naturally aspirated, we have an injector upgrade. We can use the bigger injectors that are in the third gen and in the turbo models that are the same injectors. Now, I'm not tuning for those yet, and I won't be tuning for those for a while. So don't start asking me about that yet, because before you guys even think about upgrading injectors, if you're naturally aspirated, you need to do your rods, because that is the weak component, the weakest component in the fourth gens NAs is the rods. Now, there's a simple way you can do it and a complicated way. But right now, as far as this goes, the best thing you could do if you want lower compression and go really high boost is to take the rods and pistons out of the fourth gen turbo and put it in your vehicle. Now, if you wanted to keep your fuel economy and keep the efficiency and not run super high boost, but you just want to add a little boost and, you know, get 50 miles per gallon, what you could do is upgrade your rods and pistons to third gen, but get an aftermarket rod. So you can do the King Tech rod with a third gen piston and use that in your fourth gen. That's the best if you want. If you're going to be on your supercharger and you want to increase ignition timing and stay with the supercharger, that'd probably be your best option, is to use the third gen rod and piston set, because you can't use the third gen rod on a fourth gen rod or a piston. So if you do a third gen rod, you have to use a third gen piston in the 2.5. Now, that's just what you got to do. You can't use the third gen rod on the fourth gen NA. So the best thing you do is just take the whole assembly, but switch out the rod. If you're going to do it, you might as well go aftermarket and do like a King Tech rod on that third gen piston and put it in the fourth gen. Or, like I said, do the turbo, piston, and rod, and it works interchangeably in the fourth gen NA and in the third gen NA. You can use the turbo, rod, and pistons. That's not what I would do, because I like the higher compression. So I would probably get the third gen rod and piston assembly, but use the upgraded rod. All right. So sorry, got off topic a little bit. We're supposed to be talking about fueling. But okay, so we're at this point where we have an injector upgrade for our fourth gen NA, but now what about our turbo models? Is there an upgrade for them so they can go past that 350 wheel horsepower mark with the pure 500 turbo? And the results right now with a Denso injector is no. I've called 5 or 6 different manufacturers, and they all say Denso don't make any fuel injectors over 1,000 cc's. Now, the ones that are in the 2.5 turbo are around like 980. I got to get it verified again. But those actually, surprisingly, flow more than, believe it or not, the CX-90 3.3 inline 6 injectors. I have that right here. I sent this out to get tested in Ohio versus the NA 2.5 injector. And on my next video, I'll share those results. But I tested this CX-90 3.3 injector versus the 2.5 NA injector, and the 2.5 NA injector flowed more fuel at the same pressures. No matter if it was 200 bars or 250 bar, the NA flowed more. Now, what was interesting about that, I also sent a EcoBoost injector, since that's all I was talking about for the longest time. Now, what's interesting about the EcoBoost injector flowed less fuel at 200 bar than the 2.5 NA injector. Now, what that tells you is on these older Mazdas, the system operates at 200 bars, and at 200 bars, the stock injector outflows the 3.5 liter EcoBoost injector, right? But then if we go up to 250 bar, which the third gen systems don't support, the EcoBoost injectors now flow more than the 2.5 injectors. But because your system does not support 250 bars on your third gens, guess what? Your stock injectors are the best injectors, better than the EcoBoost injectors as of now. At 200 bars, the 2.5 flows the most. All right. Just showed you that little picture of that. So yeah, right now our 2.5 injectors are the best injectors. I have been able to get more fuel out of it. If you have a Cork Sport Turbo, don't worry about getting power. I can get you 350, but you can't get to that 350 mark unless you do rods. So guys, fueling is not our weak link right now. In the NA models, the weak link is the rods. The ND2 and the 4th gen NAs, the rods are the weakest component. Even in the 3rd gen, the rods are the weakest components. Now, the 3rd gens do have stronger rods and pistons. So after the rod gives out, the pistons kind of not that good. But I believe in order of weakest components is going to be your rods, right? And then I would say, the 4th gen NA is going to be fueling. And then the pistons. Now, as of right now, the only upgrade I recommend for any vehicle is the rods for the NA models, not the injectors. I mean, obviously everyone do the low pressure fuel pump and the module since it's such a cheap thing to do, but don't worry about injector upgrades right now because you got a bigger problem, which is your rods going out before you even think about fueling. Now the turbo model, you got the biggest injectors already. So the only thing you can do is the low pressure fuel pump, and if you want to, you can do the CX-90 module. It won't make a huge difference. We tried the fuel pump from the CX-90, didn't make a difference. So I've tried every component, guys, and I'm gonna leave the links below for all the different components and what I recommend for each model. I made mistakes by telling people get the DW300C. Doesn't do much. Now, what sucks for the first generation 2.5 turbo, they already have the CX-9 fuel pump and the module. So there's no fueling upgrades for Mazda 6 Turbo, CX-5 Turbo, or the CX-9. There's no fueling upgrades because you have the upgraded pump already, and you can't use the better upgraded pump for the 4th gens because I haven't found one. So if somebody does find one that's the size of the LC500 for you guys, you'll have something to upgrade to, but as of now, that's it, guys. So you Mazda 6, CX-9, and CX-5 guys, I don't recommend doing the Pure 500 yet until somebody finds some upgrades, because the fuel pump and stuff in the 4th gens, that low pressure side is better. They get better fueling. So it is what it is. I could be wrong, but until someone proves me wrong, that's it. So catch you later, guys. I'm going to finally eat a meal and I'm getting back to work. Catch you later.